Once again, time for the Burrows. Kevin Buck, Michael Merlo coming to you live every Tuesday, Friday, whenever it is. Definitely Fridays, but maybe Tuesdays. And a surprise little Tuesday playoff episode as we did last week. And the Mets won one series. The Yankees won one series. Every series a 1-1 series. But we'll start by discussing what happened last night where the Yankees at home dropped game 2 to Kansas City. Bad start for Carlos Rodon. So now the Yankees have to go to Kansas City with an even series after failing to win a game where they only allowed 4 runs. Mike, I'll throw to you first here. Your thoughts on last night's game and the first 2 from Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it looked like Rodon was going to roll, Kevin, that first inning. He was really excited, had a great start, and, kind of just went downhill in that 4th inning, can't even get out of it. It's a shocking turn of events in that 1 inning, and you watch this team, and this isn't meant to be like a disrespect towards the Kansas City Royals team. They're a good ball club. They're here for a reason. But it's like some of the guys that were beating Rodon, it's like, really? This is a guy, Garrett Hampson was 2 for 2, things like that. So, some big hits from some, lesser guys on this team getting to Rodon and just playing small ball, all singles last night for Kansas City. So it didn't feel like a good win. It wasn't an exciting game either. It wasn't one of those pitchers duels and, or a bunch of home runs and good offensive play. It was just kind of boring. And the Yankees didn't get the good Cole Reagans last night and got him out by the 4th inning, after the 4th inning, and they can't do anything.
Yeah, the positive outlook from last night's game, which I have, is 1-1. Every series around the league is 1-1. This is not going to be a situation where all 4 are underdogs winning. It's just not likely. Now, could it happen? Of course, but let's be real. This is a long series. Best of 5. There's 2 left, and now you're in a best of 3 with Kansas City, which I like how the Yankees fare in a best of 3 with 1 at home against the Royals. Now, that's the positive outlook, and you could talk about also the fact that the Yankees lost with who I think is, without a doubt, their worst pitcher. Carlos Rodon pitches game 2 more based on what they pay him than his performance. And I think, Mike, you can call me insane. I think Marcus Stroman, who's not even on the playoff roster, is as good as Carlos Rodon.
I think that's a crazy statement, but I do share the sentiment that he's overrated, and I wouldn't have had him in game 2. I have heard from Yankee fans and people around the Yankees say this guy isn't as bad as his numbers say. He's actually had a sneaky good year, and I never saw it. I never really saw it. He's inconsistent, and last night you saw some of those inconsistencies. Now, Clark Schmidt's going game 3. What's the plan with Heel? That would be my question for you. Where does Heel fit into this thing? Because I would much rather have Luis Heel out there than Carlos Rodon. Kevin, you pay the guy $160 million. He's got to be better than that. You got to get through 5 innings at least. With that,
get through 4 after the first 2 innings he had.
I mean, come on. It's a pathetic start from Carlos Rodon. You pay a lot of money for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rodon, very soft-minded when he gets into trouble. All it took last night was Salvi hitting a good fastball for a home run. You challenge him with a fastball on the first pitch of that bat. He takes you deep. You have to write that off. You have to say, all right, it's a 1-1 game. But then Rodon completely loses command immediately after that. So it shows the problem with this Yankees top 2 is they're soft-minded. We saw that from both of them in the first 2 games. Now, the negative outlook I have is something you mentioned. Reagans was not good last night.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees scored 1 run off Reagans, who went 4 innings. They didn't get to the bullpen at all. Chisholm, obviously, a solo shot in the 9th, but it's just not enough to be positive about the Yankees lineup in last night's game. Giancarlo Stanton feels like a liability. I know he knocked in the run last night, but his inability to even be a threat as an athlete, he's home run or nothing. Because once he gets on base, it's almost like you don't have a base runner.
Right. He's an out. Kevin, I want to go back to that first inning. And, I do want to call out the best right-handed hitter I think I've ever seen in my lifetime, okay? I do want to call him out because Cole Reagans, again, young guy in Yankee Stadium, game 2, a must-win game for Kansas City. Excuse my voice for a second.
Oh, Mike, bad loss of voice right there, man. Get it out.
There we go. I got it.
Yeah, go for
You
it.
know, Reagan's young guy, big moment, and he walks the first 2 batters of the game. Okay, he walks Torres, he walks Soto, and now you got Judge, 2 guys on, big opportunity to stomp on their throat early, right? And Reagan's attacks Judge. I mean, right at him. And the strike 3 pitch was Judge missed it right down the middle.
Yep.
Like, they're attacking Aaron Judge right now, and he missed it. So you have Reagan's on the ropes, and the 3rd batter of the game, and you can't bring him in. You're the MVP of the league. You're the greatest right-handed hitter we've seen. Kevin, enough's enough. I know it's a narrative. I know it's something we've talked about now for years, that he doesn't perform in the postseason. This enough is enough, because now it's becoming a real thing if he doesn't start hitting, game 3 on.
And the sample size is massive now, because there's always that narrative of, well, he can't hit in the playoffs. Okay, maybe now we get to, and I mentioned it before the postseason started, now you're in a position with Soto and Wells hitting on the opposite ends of you, and you have Torres, who's been excellent, my top performer from the first 2 games, been excellent in the leadoff spot, and you feel like Judge has the protection he's never gotten. And now they'll dance around Soto. They'll cautiously challenge Wells. We saw them walk Wells with bases loaded the other day. Not that they intentionally walked him, but that they didn't pitch to him so that he could hurt them. Who's the guy they're going right after? Is Aaron Judge. That is incredible, because it shows you that even though he's the best hitter in the league, in the American League, he's the best player in baseball in the regular season every year. He's the best player in baseball. Him and Ohtani, whoever you want to take, I don't care. They're 2 generational talents. And the players feel equally as down about him and feel equally as much that sentiment that he's not good in the playoffs as fans do. The Royals are not worried about him at all. Game 1, you learned right away. 2nd and 3rd, no outs, 1st inning. There's a base open. You could walk this guy who just hit 58 home runs, and is going to win the MVP as a unanimous front runner, runaway MVP. You could walk him in his first at bat of the postseason. Waka goes right at him and strikes him out. That showed you, and it set the tone for Judge's series. He almost got away with a short porch pop-up last night.
Yep.
Wind blowing in really kept that at the track. I thought he needed that one. That could have got him going, because he didn't deserve a home run there, but he almost got a Yankee Stadium cheapie. He doesn't get it. And now there's a massive concern going on the road with Judge here.
And it wasn't even a bad pitch by Reagans either. I mean, I thought it got a little bit more plate than he wanted, but he tried to get it low and inside. I thought it was low inside enough. It obviously was, but yeah, it looked as though he might have had a chance at it. It's becoming a problem, I think, now. Again, you're going on the road. You talk about the Yankees being good on the road. What do they do here? But Kevin, I think my thoughts after last night's game was that, you know what, this is now a series. Now, I didn't think it would be easy for the Yankees, but I thought if they got last night, it would be done. No matter really what happened, if they got last night, it'd be done. Now, Seth Lugo on the mound, I think they have the advantage over Clark Schmidt in the pitching matchup. You're going back to Kansas City. This is a team that plays good at home. So I know we don't want to get into the future of this series, but last night I think was a wasted opportunity, because again, you knock their ace out after the 4th inning, and they only scored 4 runs. You could score more runs than that, Kevin.
How about on the other side of it too, Bobby Witt Jr. hitless through 2 games. This is just an anomaly that the 2 best players, far and away the 2 best players in the American League, the 2nd and 3rd best players in baseball this year, if Judge isn't the first, then 1st and 3rd, whatever you want to call them, 2 top 3 players in the league, no hits. I'm not counting Judge's infield single. No hits in these first 2 games of substance. No hits to the outfield. Witt had 1 good shot, and Judge took it away from him in the first inning of game 1. It looked like it was going to be a double or maybe even a triple. It wasn't. So one of those 2 guys are going to win their team a game here in Kansas City, or win their team a series by getting going. But if both of them stink, it feels like both teams are going to lose. I don't know how either team wins a series without those guys playing well.
I felt the same exact way when Witt came up in a couple of big spots yesterday, that he wasn't going to get the job done. He looked lost on pitches that were low and outside. They were just fooling him, and it felt like if you buried a pitch, he was going to chase it. So, I feel the same way about the two guys who are going to finish 1-2 in the MVP voting. I do not feel that way about Soto. I still fear Soto. I think like you mentioned before, I think these Royal pitchers also fear Soto right now because just of his command of the strike zone. He rarely swings at bad pitches. So, I think there's a fear of Juan Soto here, but obviously the Royals do not have another player even close, to the talent level of Juan Soto after Bobby Witt. So, guys stepped up last night. Maikel Garcia, he has 4 hits. Perez hits the homer. They got some Tommy Pham had a nice day. He had a nice day in right field as well, made some nice plays. So the Yankees are going to have to find other guys to step up, and the Royals, now with Bobby Witt not doing anything, need guys to step up.
And the last part of that positive mindset that I'll tell you about is you mentioned Soto. You're 1-1 with a bad first 2 games from Judge and Cole, and Soto hasn't impacted the game the way he can, but he's hitting. Had a few hits in game 1. He had good at-bats last night again. So at some point, Soto is going to come up with the big hit, the big play at the plate that you will win a game because of. So I'm not too worried yet, but the difference in 1-1 to down 1-2 is massive in a best-of-5 series. So they got to win the game tomorrow. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Let's get to the Mets who play tonight. Yep. But we will circle back to the Yankees in a little bit as we preview every series, but we'll start Mets tonight. What do you think heading back to Citi Field? Will you be there today?
I'll not be there tonight. I'll be watching the game at home tonight. Tomorrow, different story. Not sure yet, but I think a little nervous feeling, Kevin. I'm not going to lie, and I guess that's a good thing. I guess that's a normal thing. Sean Manaea has been your guy all year, so you got to trust that he's going to come out and shove tonight. But I'm nervous. It's a good Phillies team. They showed that, you weren't going to keep them down, right? And that Sunday loss hurts a little bit because you had chances to tack on to your 3-0 lead and you didn't. You knew this Phillies team was not going to just lay down and die. You knew they weren't going to score no runs. It was a great game, back and forth. The Mets end up losing it. So this Phillies team is now alive. I do trust that they could get to NOLA here. I think that place is going to be unbelievable tonight. I think that atmosphere is going to be crazy. They haven't been home in 16 days. Lindor hasn't played at home since September 8th, Kevin. September 8th is the last home game Lindor played in. I'm pumped to see what it looks like tonight, what it sounds like tonight. It should be a great atmosphere, but it's also a good pitching matchup. So I don't know what to expect. I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous here.
It's a very good matchup. I would be scared with Nola on the other side of this. Nola is very good in these games. He's very good against the Mets. I'd be worried about that. And Manaea has been excellent. I'm glad you get him at home if I'm a Mets fan because I don't love Manaea on the road in that spot in Philly. But you get out 1-1, Mike, out of Red October, which is allegedly, and most people agree and feel this way, the best home field advantage in the postseason is Philadelphia. And you get out 1-1. You showed in game 2 that they can't blow you out. No. They can't come out and just beat the Mets. The Phillies will have to give you their best game to beat the Mets. And you showed in game 1 you can win a Zach Wheeler outstanding start. So this is going to be an interesting, pivotal game tonight. I don't know if there's a more pivotal game in playoff baseball than game 3 of a division series because one of 2 outcomes can happen in game 3 of a division series. You go up 2-1, go down 2-1, or you win the series because a team can only be up 2-0 or even or down 0-2 after the first 2 games, obviously, and it's a best of 5. So in a series that only requires 3 games to win, game 3 is so incredibly pivotal. The Mets have to win it tonight because I don't love the idea of the Mets going to Philadelphia for a game 5.
I don't love that either. It would be tough to beat Wheeler again, even though you didn't beat Wheeler, just win the day Wheeler starts.
Hmm.
That would be tough. So, you win tonight, you really set yourself up for an interesting game 4, which will have Jose Quintana on the mound. And I'm sure McGill would be able to back him up as well, have a ton of arms ready to go. It's going to be fascinating, Kevin. I think another aspect of this thing with the Mets is, they can't blow you out. The Phillies came into the series. I think the Mets are 2-1 underdogs here. So, Vegas and even Fangraphs now in terms of, the odds to win the series, they give the Phillies the upper hand. They look like very even teams. And, you can't tell me, which team was the higher seed and won the division based on the way the first 2 games went. I think they looked very even. Now, it's a good Phillies team. They have a good bullpen, but the Mets got to their top guys the last 2 nights. They did. So that is something I need to see. I have concerns with the pitching staff of the Mets, though. I think overall, that's where my biggest concerns come from. I understand Sunday night you didn't have 3 relievers. You didn't have Reed Garrett. You didn't have Phil Maton. You didn't have Stanek, guys that Mendoza has trusted this postseason and late in the year. So 3 of your top guys were out. But Diaz has not looked great. That's a concern. You go to McGill in a tough spot for him. He ends up giving up the lead in the 9th and losing the game. So my concern will be with the bullpen. I'm happy they're getting some guys back. You're getting Maton and Reed Garrett. They'll be rested, ready to go. But I do have concerns with Diaz at the back end.
And Manaea, his last playoff game pitched against the Phillies was a disaster. He looks to put that in the rear view. I don't worry about that at all. It's from 2 years ago, or it was last year.
2 years ago. He's a completely different guy.
Totally different guy, totally different pitcher. But I think that's in his mind tonight as a positive for the Mets. I think that's in his mind. Like, this is the team that really hit me around in my last postseason start. Or not last postseason start, but my last time really blowing a big spot in the postseason. And I'm going to try and correct that tonight at home at Citi Field with a Mets team that I think has embraced him and a Mets fan base that has embraced him after some serious journeyman years.
Yep.
Finally found a nice, stable situation for him this season and a couple other veterans on the staff. So I'm sure he's jacked for tonight against the Phillies. I think the Mets drop this game only because of Nola. I'm very, very worried about Nola if I'm a Mets fan tonight. Do you feel the same way there? Like, as worried as I am?
So Nola, overall in his long career with the Phillies, has owned the Mets, and he's gone to Citi Field and pitched very well. Of late, it hasn't been that case. They've actually hit him a little bit. So not as scared. Maybe 2 years ago, if you asked me this question, I would have said, oh, it's done. But the last couple of seasons, they've actually gotten to Nola in these spots. So I know Nola in his last 2 years, he's pitched in the NLDS. He's been great, but that was with the Phillies jumping out to big leads against the Braves. And they blew out the Braves in both games he pitched. So, I think it'll be different if you're not pitching with a big lead. We'll see if Manaea can keep them in check. I think this is a close game. I do. I think it's a low-scoring game tonight, 4-3, 5-3, something like that. The Mets need this one. Because you got to give yourself a chance to close it out in game 4. You just have to.
Do you know the home road splits between these two teams this year?
I know the Phillies aren't the greatest road team, and the Mets are pretty good at home. I'll look it up right now for you.
Let me look quick. The Mets home. I felt like the Mets were not good at home this year.
They picked it up. They really picked it. They really picked it up.
The worst offensive home team in the league.
No, they picked it up big time at home, especially later in the year. They went on some good runs there and really fed off that crowd.
Okay, because the place is going to be rocking tonight. How many Phillies fans do you think we see?
Not the same amount as you saw, with what do you call it?
Yeah, the other way.
Yeah, the other way. I don't think it's going to be
Mets fans in Philly.
Too bad. I mean, they're pretty even on the road and at home. The 106 home runs at home this year, 736 OPS. They had 101 home runs on the road. Their batting average was 16 points higher on the road, but the slug was even. The on base is higher at home, so they're pretty even. A 732 OPS away from home. It'll be interesting. They're even. It's basically even. They're the same.
How did you like the way that Mendoza handled the Game 1 Senga-Peterson situation?
I thought Mendoza, the first 2 games of the series, managed in the best way possible, even though game 2 led to a loss. When they announced Senga, you had to have known that it was only going to be for a couple of innings.
Mhm.
You go to Peterson. I thought Peterson gave you some good innings there. But Kevin, they got, Garrett was great. Garrett gave him 2 scoreless after 3 from Peterson. So he got some really good performances in that game. I thought he handled it perfectly. I know he was getting some heat for how he handled game 2. I thought he handled game 2 as well as he possibly could. He goes to Buto in the 7th. Buto can't get out of the 7th. He can't get Cody Clemens to end the inning in the 7th. Instead, now you got to bring up Schwarber with 2 guys on, only up 1, and Diaz has to come in. Diaz gets the out, but now Diaz threw 10 stressful pitches. Now he's got to come back out for the 8th to face the rest of the top of the order. Instead of Buto getting Clemens, you're still up 1 going into the 8th. Diaz comes in with a clean 8th inning against the top. He didn't throw 10 stressful pitches. Maybe things change. I don't know. Maybe it's a different outcome.
Definitely
I thought he handled it perfully, though.
He
didn't have
couldn't
enough
have done
guys.
much. They didn't have enough on Sunday with
exactly.
the back-to-back and the long week of games before it. They just didn't have enough in the tank, pitching-wise, to win that game. And the Phillies, listen, really good team here.
Mhm.
This is what I think people lose sight of when they're watching their teams in the division series. There's not a bad team left. There's not a bad baseball team left. You can be a casual and say the Tigers are, but they're not. There's not a bad baseball team left. You have the worst teams, all 3 of which I believe are in the American League, have MVP candidates in Jose Ramirez, Bobby Witt Jr. You have a Cy Young winner in Detroit. These are not bad teams at all. So to go 1-1, teams are going to win games, man. You're not going to win every game. I think Mets fans have been pretty relaxed and calm after this loss, though. I think that they've been level-headed for the most part from what I've seen from the people I know. Pretty level-headed. They know 1-1 was the goal to head back to Citi Field. But when you win game 1, you always want to get game 2. You get a little greedy. And 1-1 is all you can do. Most of these series end up going 5 games, historically. 5 games, win-or-go-home games in the division round are very common. So I think that's what we're heading to here. You feel optimistic about the next 3 days?
I'm nervous.
3 games?
I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous. I love the stat that the Phillies have never won a series in which they lost the first game. I like that stat, but it also scares the crap out of me. So tonight is you mentioned it. Game 3 in a 5-game series is probably the biggest game outside of game 7 of a 7-game series. So this is pretty big tonight. If they can get this win, I'll have a ton of confidence going into that game 4 with Quintana, who's been nails for them of late, and hopefully you close it out there. But I think they're going to pitch well tonight. I just looked at the pitching splits. They're almost a full run lower at home than they are on the road in terms of team ERA. So let's get this win tonight. Sean's got us.
Sean has you. Anything else you want to do on the Mets here?
No. If I think of anything later, I'll.
All right, yeah, definitely. We can always circle back to the Mets. Gabe says having Diaz throw 130 pitches in 8 days is nuts.
He had the 40 on that Monday, and right there, I mean, that's now you're just looking at what is it, 90 pitches? It's a lot. He's the closer. You got to do what you got to do.
You have a situation a few years ago, but with a must-win team. So not the Mets. I'm not totally comparing them. With a must-win team and a 1-year rental closer. That was the Cubs when they won the World Series with Aroldis Chapman, and they pitched him 2 innings a night for almost the entire postseason. And that's what it takes. And Diaz, I'm sure, is up for the task. He didn't pitch at all last year after the disaster injury. He had some rough moments. I thought for him to come back in that game on Saturday, was it Saturday or was it the Milwaukee game 1 what game did he blow and get the save anyways?
The Atlanta game.
Oh, that was the Atlanta game? Jesus, they're all blending together, all these Mets comebacks.
Yeah, a lot of them.
But Diaz, bottom line is the last week for him could be a nice little get right after 2 years that he, I think, would want to mostly forget.
Well, how about this? in the game in which they came back against Milwaukee, game 3, he comes into second and third like 1 out, and he gets out of it. And then
Yeah.
he pitches a scoreless 8th to give them a chance to come back only down 2 in the 9th. So, people forget about that game as well, where, he threw a lot of pitches. He went, I think, an inning and 2/3, and he pitched well in that scenario. So, give him credit. He's pitched up and down of late.
All right, let's move to objectively, I think, the best series, which is the Dodgers and Padres. Rivalry involved here, talent all over. But tonight, obviously, I mentioned it, pivotal game 3 at San Diego. Place is going to be a madhouse for this game. Walker Buehler versus Michael King. There's your probable pitchers. Did you see what happened to Walker Buehler?
Did he get robbed?
He got robbed. He was with his wife, I think, or his girlfriend, or whoever, or whatever she is to him.
Yeah.
And he had his watch stolen, which is
expensive watch.
$100,000 watch.
Yeah, dude, walking around with an expensive watch like that. Come on.
Yeah, so Walker Buehler has to bounce back from being robbed of a $100,000 watch to pitching against the unstoppable force that is my guy, Michael King.
Yeah. He also has to bounce back from being terrible this year.
Yeah,
that's also...
yeah, we also shouldn't forget that he sucked this season. 1-6 with a 5.38 ERA, 64 strikeouts this season for Buehler, coming back from injury, but he's been terrible. He's a free agent this offseason as well, just to note, keep him in the back of your mind. They need to win tonight, the Dodgers. There's so much. People don't like to throw this out there, and maybe it's my Yankees blinders on me. There's a lot of pressure on the Dodgers for one reason. They have to beat San Diego, because this is a rivalry where little brother is taking you out every year now.
Yeah, no, they definitely have to win, and it's not a great matchup. Michael King, game 3, he was unbelievable, as good as you can get in game 1 of the wild card round against Atlanta. Now a completely different lineup, but I trust the Padres here after what they dealt with. There's a lot going on. I mean, you had Machado allegedly throwing the ball into the dugout at Dave Roberts. You have, obviously the disgusting acts of the Dodger fans throwing things on the field at the Padre players. So there's a lot involved in this series in terms of the rivalry and the off the field stuff and on the field stuff. Literally, it's a huge game. I think the Padres are going to ride the momentum from last what was that, Sunday night's game. I think they're going to win the next 2. I think it's done. I don't think it goes back to LA. I think the Padres are going to get them here. I was shocked they lost game 1, and the Padres will get them with King on the mound tonight.
I think so too. There's definitely some bad blood from the Machado tenure in LA that has now boiled into these last few years with San Diego, where he's become their top guy. That was not just a regular I throw the ball into the dugout moment, as he tried to make it after the game. This is a serious rivalry. He hates them, they hate him, and the whole team on each side hates the other. I'm pumped to watch this game tonight. I'm excited to watch Michael King tonight. What time is this game? 9:00 tonight, and the Mets start at 5, which I think is another miss by Major League Baseball. If you want to just talk about not putting the Mets and Phillies in prime time, I don't love this.
You got to have Ohtani in prime time.
And I know it's impossible with the scheduling, but it would be nice to have an AL NL split days. I don't like having the NL AL days, but you have to. Well,
the only issue you run into is you want the Yankees on prime time as well. So you're choosing between Mets, Phillies, and Yankees not in prime time.
So there's really no scenario where the Mets and Phillies get in prime time, because you can't leave the Dodgers off. And with the West Coast situation, you can't put the Dodgers on at 5 or 4 Eastern for playoff games against the Padres.
Yeah,
exactly. So you need to have Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, etc. on. By the way, Betts sucks in the playoffs too. Nobody's talking about that. He is on an Aaron Judge level playoffs. What is he, 3 for his last 42 or something in the
terrible
postseason? He is on that level of Judge right now, but it doesn't get talked about as much for good reason. Judge is the best player on the New York Yankees. Betts right now is the second, third best player on the LA Dodgers.
Second best player.
Maybe third.
Second best player.
Maybe third.
He's the second.
Freddie with the high ankle sprain.
Second best player on the
Freddie's
Dodgers.
my guy, though. I love Freddie.
I know you like Freddie.
Freddie's the second best player on the Dodgers. And that's a good point, though, the primetime situation. We're getting totally off track here. I'm totally losing my train of any
Yeah,
thought.
you're good.
Let's go to this. What are you going to say?
No, I'm just I share the same opinion as you that this series is basically must watch. Even though the game got delayed, the Sunday Night Football, I was like, I don't even care about the Sunday Night Football game until it ended up being a blowout. The Padres really poured it on. I was just locked into that. But Flaherty, not good. Yamamoto, not good. I would expect the same thing. I worry about this Dodger pitching staff. That's what I thought would be their undoing. And it is. And it's due to injury, crazy injury to the starting rotation. And, it's an unfortunate end, I think, ultimately for this Dodger team.
The Sunday Night Football game, my story on that is I cared so little that in the 6th or 7th inning, maybe, I turned on NBC to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And there was a weather delay. I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was
funny.
What is happening? It was like 9:35. So what is going on in this game right now? It's not started. And then I just turned it off again. And I turned it back on after I watched the entire blowout of the Padres game just because I care that much more right now about baseball.
Yeah.
But how about Padres wild card player that there's always those guys, right, that step up that no one expected, no one had on the bingo card. There's all these stars in the postseason, but it's the guys who are not expected to step up who do that win championships. How about Kyle Higashioka?
Your guy.
This season becoming a very serviceable starting catcher.
He is a great story. He was so good. He was good for them all season long. Remember, they had this kid Campano, whatever, Luis Campano. I'm saying the name wrong, whatever. He's a young catching prospect they had in the system for a long time. And they expected Higashioka to be the backup catcher, catch 2 times a week, whatever it is. And this kid was going to be the starter. And Higashioka completely took that over by midseason and had a nice year for the Padres. It's a great story for him. They're a great team. Kevin, this bullpen is, listen, we could get on Preller for being ultra aggressive and being, just completely irresponsible with his prospects. But man, is this bullpen elite. And I don't know how anybody can hit this pen with Scott and Suarez and Adam. That guy Adam is unbelievably nasty, and I didn't even name everybody. So really good stuff out of the pen. And Kevin, Jackson Merrill is
he's one of those guys.
Star. I mean, just a scary, scary baseball player.
He's one of those guys that are just absolute franchise-altering, game-changing talents. On Higashioka, quick. Decent year this year, right at the plate. Like, you'll take it for a catcher, 220 average, hit 17 home runs, 45 RBIs, in 246 at-bats, and he plays a good defense. In the postseason so far, 364 average, 385 on base, 1,600 OPS, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs. He's been a bona fide every game start as a catcher, and he's just hitting and giving you good at-bats. What more could you want from a throw-in in the Juan Soto trade? The ultimate throw-in. That is a total, hey, we got to free up a roster spot. Can you take Higashioka? He's, you could use him as a backup catcher for the year. He has a use, but the Yankees didn't have a use for him with Wells and Trevino. And they were like, could you take him? We don't want to cut him. And they do. No value in that piece at all in the big picture of that trade, and he's come up big. All credit in the world to AJ Preller. You're spot on. The bullpen is dominant. It's dynamic. You have a bunch of different ways that you can get batters. You have strikeout guys. You have ground ball guys. You have lefties. You have righties. You don't have this one-dimensional pen, and all of the pitchers are very good. So AJ Preller, great job. He definitely spends over his limit, sure, but who cares really?
If he wins a World Series, it's worth it. But if he doesn't win a World Series, then you have to hit him hard because, again, it is irresponsible the way he does make some of these trades with these prospects.
Well, I'll make a comparison, cross-sport comparison that we might be seeing. AJ Preller and Les Snead, Los
Mhm.
Angeles Rams general manager. Because as reckless as it gets, every couple years you think, oh, well, this is where it's just going to go off the rails. And we thought that after that Baker Mayfield season, and the Rams came right back the following year and marched in as a Super Bowl contender in the postseason.
Mhm.
The Padres lose Soto, and they're like, all right, well, the owner just passed. They had to trade Soto. They're in a bad financial situation. Oh, what happened? They're the best team in the league now in October?
No, the one thing they do well, like like the Rams do, is that like the Rams draft very well when they do have their picks, and they hit on a lot of late round picks.
Mhm.
And the same thing goes for the Padres. They draft well. They sign really good international prospects. There's a reason why they always have the top farm system. I mean, again, they drafted Jackson Merrill 3 years ago at the back end of the first round. So, yeah, I mean, he knows what he's doing. You can't get too reckless, but I also don't like the strategy of prospect hoarding like your boy Brian Cashman does.
Mm-hmm. It's AJ Preller I think he's in a league of his own right now.
I wouldn't say that.
I think he is.
I think he's way too aggressive.
Mike,
I don't put him up there.
I
don't put him up there. And I can name 5 executives better than Preller right now.
Because it goes to your point of their farm is always able to replenish what they lose at the major league level.
But
so
he's also made some bad trades, though.
But at least he's like making aggressive trades. And
Come
for every bad trade, he makes a good one.
I can
This
name 5.
This Soto trade makes up for a lot of the bad he's done. He nailed this.
I'm writing down 5 names that are better than him right now. And I'll see if you agree with me.
All right, hold on.
Let's see if you agree with this. Who do I want to put? I don't want to put Dombrowski on this list. I don't think he's that good. I think this guy's better. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Alex Anthopoulos, the Brave guy.
I mean, you gotta say yes because he's got the World Series, right?
Perfect. Okay. I think Andrew Friedman with the Dodgers is probably the best.
No, I don't think he's better than.
Come on.
No, I don't think he's better than Preller because he has this ridiculous budget of I can go get Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Smith. I can have all these guys.
But they develop prospects.
They haven't won a World Series in a 162 game season.
Okay, but the Padres haven't won one either, and they develop and draft prospects just as good and make aggressive trades to bring superstars. The only difference is the superstars they trade for actually pan out.
No, I'm with Preller on that.
And on top of it, they went bargain shopping when they got Freeman. Freeman fell into their laps because nobody wanted him for whatever reason.
But you still, that's true. That is true. But you still have the ability to give out a $150 million contract to a multi-time All-Star future Hall of Famer. That's not an ability that a lot of teams had after the lockout. I think that
Preller has had this. Preller has had these options. Friedman's made incredible trades. And I'm going to give you another guy on this list. A guy that completely ripped Preller off in Rizzo. I think Mike Rizzo with the Nationals is an excellent executive.
No, Rizzo's very good. I
think he's underrated as well. I think he's an excellent executive.
Because people don't realize that just because they're bad, they don't have this turnover. Like he has a very stable plan for his organization, even through the times that they're bad. So I'll give you Rizzo there. He's excellent.
Quick rebuild. They're going to be competing this year. If they spend some money, they're going to compete this year.
Yeah, that's a good
upcoming year. I think Dana Brown with the Astros is a good executive.
Well, the Astros have what's his tenure been?
All right, you know what? Maybe I don't want to put Dana Brown. You're right. I was iffy on him.
Because he didn't build that group.
That you're right.
He's only been there a year and 2 years here.
All right, so you're giving me the Brave guy. You're giving me the National guy. I can't believe you're not giving me Friedman.
Friedman, fair to take. I'm not taking him. I'm very anti-Dodgers with the lack of success they've had in the postseason. And maybe that's a Dave Roberts thing.
Right.
But Friedman can still call the shot on whether or not Dave Roberts is there, I believe.
Okay. I put Stearns ahead of him. I think Stearns, the job he did in Milwaukee, and now the job that he's doing with the Mets in year one, I would put Stearns ahead of him as well.
Okay, I need another year or two from Stearns with the Mets. I need to see if he can elevate a team past this point, which I do believe he can. But I need to see him actually build a legitimate bona fide World Series contender here. Milwaukee had the one season, but I'm going to put them even on that.
Okay.
Yeah, even, and they're both great for very different reasons. I think they're opposites of each other, but not in a bad way.
What about Dombrowski?
Dombrowski, you have to.
See, I'm not a fan of Dombrowski. I think
I'm not either.
As reckless. I think he's as reckless as Preller.
But he's won more while being reckless.
Right. But the one thing I will say in terms of comparing Dombrowski and Preller is that Preller, like you said, does retool the farm system. Dombrowski doesn't do much with the farm system other than trade the guys away, get you a World Series, and then hops out and is like, yeah, I'm good.
2 titles, and now he's built another contender in Philadelphia. So I'm, because he won 2 with 2 different organizations. Because he won with Florida, he won with Boston, and now he's got Philly in an
feels like he's won with Philly already.
Well, it feels like he's had a great job with Philly. I don't know if Philly wins a World Series. Is that what you're saying? You think Philly's definitely going to win one?
No, I feel like the last 2 seasons and I guess 3 seasons, their success, specifically in the postseason the past 2 years, it feels as though like he's already won one. I don't know if it's the fan talk like from them and like how aggressive they are, but I already feel like they've won one. But they obviously haven't, and hopefully they don't this year. That'd be really nice.
He has that reckless nature for sure. We saw it with Boston on full display. However, Boston may not have been ruined as badly after him if they didn't have to trade Betts. He left them in a pretty good spot because they still had that asset plus Devers to build around, and they botched.
But they had no farm. They had no farm system.
No farm, which is why the Betts trade was such a botch, because Jeter Downs ended up being a bad player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Preller. I mean, you didn't mention Cashman. Do you think Cashman's worse? Cashman's a tough case because he's never had a losing season. He's got 3 rings as general manager, maybe 4. Let me double check.
But I think it's 2 different eras with Cashman. I mean, overall, obviously, Cashman's the best out of everybody, but it's a tough call. I would say I've always been a Cashman defender up until late, so I'll say no. I'll say I take Cashman.
Well, how about this? You'd take Cashman's career, but right now you'd take Preller.
The last 5 years, I guess I take Preller, but again, I'm not a fan of how I'll take Preller. I'll go Preller. Official. I'll take Preller.
All right, so Preller's 4th or 5th best general manager in baseball.
Yeah,
is the conclusion we're coming to here.
Fine. All right, fine. He's in the top 5.
Let's go. All right.
You got
one series that maybe isn't must watch after bouncing back from a total must watch is Cleveland Detroit. Good games though. Close game yesterday. Skubal is really the only thing to watch though for the Tigers. They end up winning Carpenter with a 3-run home run in the 9th. You have anything you really want to talk about on this series?
Just a shocking homer.
Yeah, that was crazy. In the 9th inning there, that was unbelievable.
But yeah, I mean it's Skubal is must watch. I sat down and watched him for as long as I was home yesterday. He's unbelievable. They had no answers for him on the Cleveland side. You got it in my head. Cleveland's got a decent home field advantage. They do. Those fans get out there. It's a good atmosphere to play in, I think, for that home team. So, Cleveland is not an easy out. I think even if the Yankees have to play them in the NLCS, I still expect that to be the NLCS. So we'll see what happens, because I don't think there's any chance like the Tigers win outside of a Skubal start. They can't
win outside the Skubal games. Trading Flaherty has really come back to bite them. I know Sweeney has been a solid fill-in for them, and they maybe don't get to the playoffs without Sweeney, even though I still think they do. Replaceable production even for an organization like the Tigers.
Yeah.
But losing Flaherty has hurt them here in how they schedule these pitching rotations in these series. And obviously at the deadline, Nobody in the world was saying, well, why would you trade Flaherty? You might need him in October.
They almost traded Schoolball. So
They almost traded Schoolball for Jackson Holiday. So, I mean,
Hinch deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done all year and how he's trying to piece this together. He's a great manager.
We talked about it a week or two before the season ended. He has to be a lock for AL Manager of the Year, right?
I would assume so.
And the NL Manager of the Year, who do you think on that?
I think it'll probably be Murphy.
It'll probably be Murphy, right? Which obviously playoffs kind of taint that when he gets that award. All right, and then we'll finish up here. Yankees.
Wow, hold on. I think we got a Mets lineup already.
Wow, that's early.
First time ever we're doing a Mets lineup. Let's read the Mets lineup for Game 3 before we get do what we're doing next. We got Lindor leading off. We got Vientos at third, batting second. Nimmo batting third and left. The cleanup hitter Alonso playing first, batting fifth. Jose Iglesias at second. Batting sixth, DH Jesse Winker. Batting seventh, the right fielder Starling Marte. Batting eighth, Tyrone Taylor playing center. And the catcher, Alvarez, will catch Sean Manaea tonight at Citi Field at 5 o'clock.
All right. How you feeling about that?
Like the lineup, that's the lineup they've won with lately. They changed it up on Game 2. They did win, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like going to that lineup there. Straightforward, no curveballs in that.
Yep.
And Mets got to get a win tonight. First game at Citi Field since when? First playoff game at Citi Field since
22, and this is the
22,
first,
the wild card games.
And the first non-wild card game since 2015 World Series.
Wow. So you got to be pumped. Hopefully TBS, what is this game on Fox?
Yes, Fox.
Hopefully Fox doesn't do what TBS has done to Yankee Stadium and completely mute the crowd during these games.
It sounds lifeless. It really does. It sounds lifeless. It looked last night like a depressing place and sounded like a depressing place, even though I'm sure it wasn't. And you were there on Saturday, obviously, and could tell a different story. But the broadcast is terrible for TBS. I know they're getting ripped for it. Costas has to go. I mean, Kevin, this is the premier TBS game they have. Whatever series the Yankees are in. And you don't have Brian Anderson, who is pound for pound the best play-by-play in baseball right now. Him, Davis, Cohen, those three guys, in my opinion, are the three best play-by-play guys in the entire sport. And you don't have Anderson on the Yankee game? That's a joke. Anderson Darling is what it should be. And you send Costas to Detroit and Cleveland. Jesus Christ. Costas is done.
You're at a point here where Costas is getting the Rodon treatment, where just because of what you pay him doesn't necessarily mean he should get the spot he's getting. He is the Rodon of broadcasting in Major League Baseball right now. And TBS almost has to bite the bullet with his $7 million a year and just say, hey, you got to go to the Tigers series because we have too many viewers on the Yankee games. But the stadium, I cannot believe how lifeless they have made it sound in these games, because I know I think last night was probably pretty dead at 4-1 in the 6th, 7th inning, because they just were doing nothing at the plate. Absolutely nothing going for the Yankees in the middle of that game last night. But there's no way it was as silent as a regular season game.
It looked depressing. It felt
like a regular season game. It totally felt like I was watching that.
Did not feel like a big game last night.
But Saturday, if you listen to the highlights from TBS of the big hits, it sounds, once again, like a regular season atmosphere on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night in the middle of August, which was absolutely not the case. Totally a playoff atmosphere, loud when 2 strikes in the count against Royals hitters, and they have totally muted that. But on the series, Yankee series, how do you feel about their outcome? We'll take a quick minute here to just wrap up our conversation that we started the show with. How do you feel about the outcome of the Yankees, and do they win this series and move on? I know you kind of just said they would, but
yeah, I think they're going to move on, but I do think this is going to be tight. I think Game 3 is going to be really difficult for them. Clark Schmidt was hurt throughout for most of this season. He's going to face Lugo, who had an amazing start against them at Yankee Stadium. So I trust Lugo to get the job done on what that going to be Wednesday night. But can the Yankees get to that pen after Lugo comes out of the game? That's going to be the question. So we'll see what happens. I think this is a close, tight series. I think it's going to go 5.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I don't agree with that. I think that it's going to be a close, tight series that ends in 4. I have this odd feeling about the Yankees winning both in Kansas City.
You do.
I think
right after the game last night.
Yeah, tough spot and I'm not sitting here actually like he's a Yankees fan. He's just saying that. I'm not trying to do that. I just have a feeling about it. I don't think they're this great team that can just go on the road and sweep. Not saying that, but with the pitching matchups the next 2 games, I think they're very favorable for the Yankees, and here's why. Lugo, who I've been in love with for the last 6
That's your guy.
I picked them to win the wild card round because of Lugo alone. I said they're definitely winning the Lugo game. I think they win one of the 2 others. It's tough for him to beat the Yankees twice in a month and win 2 playoff games in a week. So I think Lugo is due for not to get bombed here, but
not have that dominant start.
Yeah, maybe 5 innings, 3-4 runs. And the Yankees after last night have to have a big game tomorrow on the offensive side of the ball. Not even a big game, but just score 5 or 6 runs in the game. And I think Lugo's due. I love Clark Schmidt. And Schmidt is a guy that Kansas City hasn't seen yet. So I think that Schmidt will bring something to the table here. You also have Luis Gil behind him if you want to go to him. And Garrett Cole is not going to have 2 bad starts against Kansas City here. I just can't see it. And I think that if the Yankees can win tomorrow, they're winning that Cole start in Game 4. Especially if they lose tomorrow, Thursday night, I cannot imagine Garrett Cole lets them lose in 4 games at Kansas City.
No, they're not.
So I'm high on the Yankees winning the next 2 games for that reason, but I do think they get out of this round. If they don't get out of this round, is this a Boone fired situation?
If they don't get out of this round, I think Boone's gone.
If they don't win another game here, if they lose both in Kansas City, they definitely have to make a change there and elsewhere. I mean, that's like a big problem if they don't win this series and if they don't win another game. But yeah, I think the Yankees win in the next 2 games. I think they go through to the World Series against either Kansas City, against Cleveland or Detroit. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Yankees are built to win 7-game series against these teams because of their pitching. They're not built to dominate quick, short series because their pitching's not good enough for it.
And this is why this series is so tough. We mentioned it, before on Friday. This is not a team you want to play in a short series because of the pitching they have, and it's going to be a difficult series. And again, the Yankees get to that 7-game series. I think they're going to win it, in 6. I think I picked the Yankees to win, this series of a 7-game series in 6. But they're tough out. So we're going to see how these next couple of days play out. But I think the Yankees still win in 5.
All right. Any more on this postseason bracket? I'm done with the Yankees there. Do you have anything else you want to touch on?
No, nothing. Good for Terry Francona. I'm excited to see what Francona does in Cincinnati.
Yeah, so that's old news, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. He had the press conference yesterday.
That's old news, man.
Yeah.
What a waste. All right. Well, let's wrap it up on that note, talking about the Cincinnati Reds to finish off our division round show. Really good plug there. I mean, my God, is there a more relevant team to have brought up?
Yes, there is. I could definitely think of a more relevant team.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching the Burrows. We may be back Friday, maybe not. We're kind of playing our schedule based on how series go and when we're available. I think there might even need to be an emergency show if one of these teams gets swept out of the next 2 games. If they lose both at home for the Mets or on the road for the Yankees.
Don't say that. We're
there
both
advancing. There may have to be an emergency episode. Both teams will advance. We have many more episodes of prosperous Burrows.
I can't. That doesn't sound confident.
No, I'm not confident at all. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you when we see you. I'll be back tomorrow with the bunker, and we will discuss the disaster that is the New York Jets firing Robert Saleh. That's tomorrow morning. The bunker. Look forward around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you when we see you. Be safe. Be well.